The New York Times, a former newspaper, has begun an investigation into why its latest anti-Trump bombshell exploded in-house, blowing several editors sky high, after which they plummeted downward with a strangely hilarious whistling sound, past eye level with ridiculously blackened faces set in expressions of comical dismay, and then smashed into the ground at high speed, where they were transformed into flat, circular editor bodies waddling around on absurdly stumpy legs. In a statement released by Times bombshell coordinator Wile E. Coyote, the newspaper said, quote, "We can't understand it. We ordered the bombshell directly from the Acme anti-Trump bombshell company with whom we've been doing business for years. Acme sent us the Russian collusion bombshell, which we planted in front of the Trump train just before the train came out of a previously non-existent tunnel and ran us over. Acme also supplied the impeachment bombshell, which we dropped on Trump from a height, only to have the president pass beneath it unharmed, after which we went down to investigate and were crushed under the falling bombshell ourselves. Then, of course, Acme sent us the Michael Avenatti Stormy Daniels bombshell, which we're sure will blow up Trump's campaign as soon as Mr. Avenatti gets out of prison. We are completely baffled about what went wrong this time," unquote. The latest Times bombshell from the Acme company was a study of Trump's tax returns, which contained the explosive information that Trump pays the smallest amount of taxes legally possible, just like every single other human being everywhere forever. The Times announced this with headlines in typeface so large that the headline didn't fit on the page and will not be completed until late October, about the same time Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed as the third justice Trump has appointed to the Supreme Court. Times editor-in-chief Blithering Prevarication III announced the former paper will deliver more Acme bombshells as Election Day nears. Mr. Third then excused himself so he could go water Joe Biden. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, welcome back to the Andrew Klavan Show, where we are laughing our way through the fall of the Republic. Please go on YouTube and subscribe to the Andrew Klavan, specifically the Andrew Klavan channel. Ring the bell so you'll get notifications. We'll have all our shows there. We'll have the openings there uncut, and we'll also have original material. If you would like to leave if you would like to leave a comment there, and the comment is sufficiently idiotic, we will read it on the air to raise the level of the conversation. We have one today from Bryce, who says this comment is not sufficiently idiotic to be read on the air by Klavanon. Then again, neither am I sufficiently idiotic to work for the New York Times. So that may be a test you want to run. If you're not stupid enough to work for the Times, don't bother leaving a comment, because it's not going to make the grade. SCOTUS nominee Amy Coney Barrett is under attack for belonging to a group that considers fathers the head of the family. The group is called Christianity, and if it's held Mrs. Barrett back at all, it's hard to see how. She's also under attack, of course, for threatening Roe v. Wade, which gave women the legal power of life and death over their unborn children. A woman with 7 children, like ACB, clearly doesn't think motherhood is a bad thing. So in other words, ACB is under attack for exhibiting signs of femininity. This is interesting. Here's an interesting fact. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was also not a fan of Roe v. Wade. She supported the power to abort. I'm not going to call it a right. It was the power to abort, and she supported that. But she thought the Supreme Court shouldn't have claimed that that power rested on a right to privacy. She thought Roe should have been based on the right to equality, because without abortion, women were not equal to men. Now, think about this for a minute. That is an incredibly ugly idea. Women and men are unequal when it comes to pregnancy, so stop the pregnancy. Or to put it another way, the only real equality is sameness. The fact that motherhood is different than fatherhood and wifehood is different than husbandhood is a problem if you think the only real equality is sameness. Now, I can remember a time when wifehood and motherhood were considered elevated positions. They made houses homes. They made humans human. Most men didn't go to work for the pure love of breaking bricks. They went to work to support the homes and families that were at the core of their humanity and their human mission. Women, femininity, supplied and created and protected humanity. So why is it that the humanizing activities of femininity are now considered curses rather than blessings? Well, I will tell you why. It's because humanity, femininity's central gift to the world, has no material value. You can earn money without humanity. You can buy stuff without humanity. Both socialism and capitalism work perfectly well without either humanity or femininity. In fact, humanity and femininity slow both systems down. The only thing you get from femininity and humanity is a full and joyous and human life. And the materialist powers that be don't care whether you live a full life or not. It slows them down. Materialism only recognizes material worth. And so women can't be equal unless they work and earn like men. That's why femininity, motherhood, and the anti-materialist values of Christianity are at odds with the world. Speaking of the difference between men and women, men can look incredibly beautiful like I do with no hair. Women, you probably want to keep the hair. 30 million women are impacted by weakened or thinning hair. And if you're among them, know that you're not alone and that there's a solution you can trust to deliver results. Thousands of women have taken back control of their hair with Nutrafol, with many users raving that the supplement not only transformed their hair, but restored their confidence as well. Nutrafol offers 2 targeted formulas for women that are clinically shown to improve hair growth and thickness with less shedding through all stages of life. Healthier hair growth takes time. You'll begin to experience thicker, stronger, faster growing hair in 3 to 6 months. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after 6 months. More than 1,500 top doctors recommend Nutrafol as an effective and high-quality solution for healthier hair. I know you look at me and you think, wow, boy, that guy is so beautiful. Maybe I could look like that. But if you're a woman, you probably want to grow thicker, healthier hair, and you can do that and support our show at the same time by going to Nutrafol.com and using promo code Klavan. New customers will get 20% off. This is their best offer available anywhere, plus free shipping on every order. So get 20% off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Klavan. And you're thinking, why are you telling me how to spell Nutrafol? Anybody can spell Nutrafol. How do you spell Klavan? It's Klavan. So I want to talk more about this attack on the Bible, on Christianity, on femininity, because of Amy Coney Barrett and the way she is being attacked for her Christianity and everything else. You know, it's really interesting to me that in Genesis, when God creates Eve, he creates Adam first. But when he creates Eve, he doesn't say to Adam, you know, I'm so busy during creation, I forgot to, invent somebody who can give you children. I forgot to invent somebody with a womb, so let me make somebody who can make babies for you. Didn't do that at all. What he said was, it is not good for the man to be alone. And if you remember Genesis, this is how God categorizes creation. He makes things and he says, yes, that's good. But he found something in creation that was not good, and he made women so that it would be good. In other words, he didn't make women because of their particular use. He didn't make them because of their bodies. He made them because they had a quality. There was something about them that made the world good, finally made creation what it was supposed to be. When God creates Eve, Adam sings this song of joy. He says, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. And he says, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh. It's really interesting. The pediatrician, D.W. Winnicott, he had this famous line where he said, there's no such thing as a baby. And what he meant by that is that the mother and child bond is so essential that until the mother's humanizing work is done, the baby can hardly be considered an individual at all. And William Wordsworth, I've talked about this before, William Wordsworth wrote about this in his epic, The Prelude. He talked about how people acquired their humanity at their mother's breast. And this, it turns out, brain science has now confirmed what Wordsworth already knew, that people actually become themselves interacting specifically with their mothers at the beginning of their lives. They actually are not fully human until they have mothers. And it's biblical wisdom, right? That even God didn't try to become a human being without having a mother. Even God had a mother. And so all of this plays into the idea that womanhood, femininity, motherhood are things that capitalism and socialism and materialism don't need. They are spiritual goods. And so they become hysterical when they see them. It really is true. And Amy Coney Barrett, with her 7 kids, with her adopted kids, with her belonging to Christian groups that are supposed to promote the idea of men as heads of the family, as responsible heads of the family. All of this stuff makes the materialist world go nuts. And the biggest representatives of materialism now, interestingly enough, are socialists. I mean, socialism is inherently a materialist philosophy. And so they're the ones who immediately go after motherhood, femininity, anything like that, because they can't imagine that something could be equal on another plane. It's equal on a non-material plane. And that's the fight that Amy Coney Barrett is basically going to be fighting as she goes forward to confirmation. Do we have our guests ready? I can't hear you guys, but I'm going to... No, we don't. Okay. So I will keep talking about this until we do have our guest ready. Let me know. Just send me a note. The Associated Press wrote this article about Amy Coney Barrett. President Donald Trump's nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court has close ties to a charismatic Christian religious group that holds men are divinely ordained as the head of the family and faith. This is a shocking thing for the Associated Press. Former members of the group, called People of Praise, say it teaches that wives must submit to the will of their husbands. And in the headline, it says they subjugate their wives, which, by the way, this is not true. And, well, we'll talk about the biblical philosophy of this. Federal Appeals Court Judge Amy Coney Barrett has not commented publicly about her own or her family's involvement, and a People of Praise spokesman declined to say whether she and her husband are current members. Barrett's advocates are trying to frame questions about her involvement in People of Praise as anti-Catholic bigotry ahead of her upcoming Senate nomination hearings. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Because this is not just People of Praise. This is good Christian doctrine. It is in the scriptures. And I'll get to that in a minute. But the woman who runs the Trinity Academy in Portland, Oregon, and was a big member of People of Praise, she said, Joanna Clark said, in a marriage, this is in the AP story, in a marriage, we look at the husband as the head of the family, and that's consistent with New Testament teaching. This role of the husband as the head of the family is not a position of power or domination. It's really quite the opposite. It's a position of care and service and responsibility. Men are looking out for the good and well-being of their families. This is good Christian theology. Jesus said, the Gentiles lead with power, but you are going to lead as a servant. You lead, your leadership is a service. And here is what Paul in the Ephesians, in the famous line that drives leftists crazy, said, wives, submit to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Now, listen to what he said. He said the church is the body, right, of Christ. So he goes on then in a very, very long following paragraph. Husbands, he says, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church, for we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Jesse Lee Peterson, great guy. I just love Jesse Lee Peterson, and he's a wonderful guy and one of the great trolls of humanity. I place him only second to Donald Trump, and a preacher, and very much loves to preach this. And what he loves to do is he loves to get you on air. He loves to get Christians on air and say, do you believe that the husband is the head of the wife? He loves to just challenge them on this, because he always says the husband above the wife above the children. And I always get him back by saying, okay, Jesse, well, wives should submit to their husbands, but then you got to read the next paragraph talking about all the stuff that husbands have to do for their wives. They have to empty themselves out as Christ emptied himself out for the church. So it's not a one-way street. And also, by the way, you'll notice that Paul does not say to husbands that you have the right to force your wife to submit. He tells wives to submit, but he does not tell husbands to force their wives to submit. All right, we have our guests. I want to stop here, and we'll get back to some of this in a little bit, because we have Senator Ted Cruz with us. It was perfect timing to come on at this moment. He was on the short list for the Supreme Court. Didn't want it. Too good for the Supreme Court is Senator Cruz. But he's got a new book coming out called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Senator, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you.
Andrew, thank you for having me. Great to see you as well.
So before we get to the book, before we get to One Vote Away, I want to ask you what you're expecting at these hearings. The hearings are going forward fast, mid-October, they're saying, for Amy Coney Barrett. What are you expecting to see?
Well, the hearings will commence on October 12th. We'll start with opening questions, and then we'll shift in on the second day. Opening statements on day one. The second day, we'll shift into questions from the senators. Each senator will get 30 minutes, and so we'll have 30-minute rounds alternating Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. The next day, we'll have another round of questions, 20-minute rounds. I expect the Democrats to do everything they can to turn this into a political circus, just like they did to the Justice Kavanaugh hearings. A week ago, before the vacancy, the hard left was already filled with rage and fury and anger. And then you add a Supreme Court vacancy on top of it. To borrow a line from Spinal Tap, now it goes to 11. I mean, they're out of their minds.
So is there any chance?
I expect it to get bad.
Is there any chance after Kavanaugh, I think there was some blowback, and if there hadn't been a delay between Kavanaugh and the midterm elections, I think it would have cost Democrats in the midterms. In the age of Trump, 3 weeks is basically a year. But now the election is getting pretty close. Is there any chance they'll just hold back and restrain themselves?
So look, anything is possible, but I don't think so. I think their base demands that they go scorched earth, that their base is so enraged that you'll see Kamala Harris putting on a performance. You'll see each of the members of the Senate Judiciary. Remember in Kavanaugh, we had Cory Booker doing his "I am Spartacus" moment. I think we'll see something like that again. And it's not clear where they're going to hit her. When Judge Barrett was nominated to become Judge Barrett, to join the Federal Court of Appeals, the Democrats went after her on her faith and attacked her for being Catholic. Dick Durbin asked her if she was an Orthodox Catholic, which I'm not sure what he meant with the adjective Orthodox. He wasn't referring to a member of the Orthodox Church, Greek or Russian. It was just, I think Orthodox was just an epithet. It was just an insult. And Dianne Feinstein famously, or rather infamously, put it this way. She said, "The dogma lives loudly in this one," which today's Democratic Party has a manifest contempt for people of faith, whether you're Catholic, whether you're evangelical, whether you're an Orthodox Jew. If faith is an important part of your life, the position of a lot of Democrats seems to be you are not fit for public office and you're not fit to serve as a judge. And that is that is a ridiculous position, but it's also an unconstitutional position because the text of the Constitution explicitly prohibits a religious test for public office.
Yeah, I don't mind if Cory Booker goes Spartacus again, as long as he keeps his shirt on. I think that would be important. Your book is called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Give me an example. What are we talking about when you say change history?
Well, sure. So what the book does, before I was in the Senate, I was a Supreme Court litigator. That's what I did for a living, is argue cases in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And so each chapter in the book takes a different constitutional liberty. So there's a chapter on religious liberty. There's a chapter on free speech. There's a chapter on the Second Amendment. There's a chapter on U.S. sovereignty. There's a chapter on elections and democracy and Bush versus Gore. And we could see that same sort of chaos play out in this election right now. And what the book does is every chapter tells war stories, tells the inside story of what was happening in the big landmark cases. And many of those cases I litigated personally. So it takes the reader behind the curtain. It takes the reader into the court to understand who the justices are, what the disagreements are about. And it goes through many of these landmark cases were 5-4. And a 5-4 case, we're just one vote away from losing our fundamental liberty. So you asked for an example. Let's take, for example, free speech. One of the cases, the chapter in free speech talks about at length, is the Citizens United case.
Mm-hmm.
Now, many people have heard of Citizens United, but they don't really know what it's about, other than that Democrats hate it. But Citizens United, the core issue in that was whether American citizens have a right to criticize politicians. And the fact pattern, what happened there, Citizens United is a nonprofit organization that made a movie critical of Hillary Clinton. And the Obama administration went after them and wanted to fine them for having the audacity to criticize Hillary Clinton. And the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. And there was a very revealing moment at the oral argument where Justice Sam Alito asked the lawyer from the Obama Department of Justice, said, under your view of the case, does the federal government have the power to ban books, to prohibit the sale of books if they criticize a politician? And the Obama DOJ said, yes, we have the power to ban books. And I mean, it was stunning. It was radical. Now, thankfully, that extreme view was rejected, but it was rejected 5-4. There were 4 justices willing to embrace the view that the federal government can ban movies or books if they criticize a politician. And both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden have pledged to nominate justices who will vote to overrule Citizens United. In other words, to give the federal government the power to censor you and me. And that's an example of being just one vote away, determining whether we have that liberty or we don't.
You know, it's amazing. I've talked to so many liberals who would listen to Hillary Clinton rant about Citizens United and talk about dark money. And when I would explain to them what the case was about, they would kind of blanch and say, oh, yeah, you actually don't want to be able to censor books. So it is interesting. I got to ask you this because out of personal curiosity, if nothing else, you were on a short list as a Supreme Court possibility. The Babylon Bee had a hilarious article about you dressing up as a woman so you could get into the list. But in fact, you don't seem to want it. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. And I actually talk about it quite a bit in the book, One Vote Away. I talk about, for each of the 3 vacancies we've had, President Trump and I have had serious conversations about those vacancies, particularly the first vacancy, the Justice Scalia vacancy. In November of 2016, the president pressed me pretty hard on whether I would be willing to go to the court. And I was deeply honored by the possibility, but I just said flat out, no, I didn't want to do it. And that was true with the latest list. And I'll tell you the reason why, which is that a principled judge stays out of political and policy fights. And if I were a judge, I'd stay out of them. I don't want to stay out of them. I want to be right in the middle of the big epic battles we're having, whether it's free enterprise versus socialism, whether it's fighting for school choice, whether it's fighting to secure the border, whether it's fighting to rebuild the military, whether it's fighting to move our embassy to Jerusalem. All of those are fights that belong in the political arena. And so a story I recount in the book is this summer when Trump was putting together his new list, he called me. I was actually visiting my in-laws out in California. We were out at a lake with the girls. And so I was standing on the dock in my flip-flops and bathing suit, and the girls are out on the boat water skiing. And the president calls on my cell and he says, Ted, I want to put together a new list for the Supreme Court. And he said, hey, can I add you to the list? I'd like to add you to the list. And I told him on the phone, I said, Mr. President, if it's helpful, if it's beneficial to put me on the list, sure, I'm happy to be on it if it's helpful for me to be on it. But you should know I don't want the job and I wouldn't take it. And that's what I've told him for each of the 3 vacancies. And frankly, Andrew, you can see why right now. The fight over Judge Barrett. In the Senate, we are in the middle of an epic battle, and I am leading the fight to confirm Judge Barrett. And I hope to be part of nominating and confirming 2, 3, 4, 5 principled constitutionalists to the court. I just don't want me to be one of them.
I'm just about out of time, but I have to ask you, as the debate is coming up, this polls seem incredibly locked down. They seem incredibly steady with Biden in the lead. Do you see this as a genuine problem going forward, or do you doubt the polls? How do you feel, quickly, I have to ask you, how do you feel about the election going on?
I think the election is volatile. It could go either way. The left is going to show up in huge numbers. They hate the president. They'll crawl over broken glass. We got to make sure everyone else shows up. We got to make sure the people who love free enterprise and the Constitution and Bill of Rights show up. And let me encourage your listeners. The book, One Vote Away, it came out today, so it just launched today. It's already number 5 on Amazon bestsellers list as of noon today. Go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get your book. Order the book, and it's designed, you don't have to be a lawyer. It's designed to be interesting and fun and give you the inside story. If you care about the election and the stakes in 2020, this lays it out powerfully. If you care about the Supreme Court, if you want to know what's really at stake in the battle over Judge Barrett becoming Justice Barrett, this book is designed to explain all of that in a readable, fun way that also hopefully will help you learn more about what the fight is all about.
Great. Thank you very much, Senator Ted Cruz. The book is One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. It's always good to see you, Senator. Thanks a lot.
Take care. God bless.
All right, we got to talk about MyPillow. How comfortable is MyPillow? MyPillow is so comfortable that I can't even sleep on it because my wife stole it almost instantaneously when it came through the house. You know MyPillow. You see Mike Lindell on all the time. He's giving a new deal out on Giza Dream Sheets. I am waiting for them to arrive, and when they do, I will try them out. My wife can't steal the sheets because I'm just bigger than she is, but we will try them out. But he's got a deal. These are made from the world's best cotton, which is Giza cotton. They're ultra soft and breathable and extremely durable. And right now, the Giza Dream Sheets are at 2-for-1 low price, plus free shipping with the promo code DailyWire. All of the MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee, but you won't need it because they are very, very comfortable. Go to MyPillow.com and click on the Radio Listeners Square to check out the 2-for-1 low price on the Giza Dream Sheets, plus free shipping. There are also deep discounts on all other MyPillow products. To enter promo code DailyWire or call 800-651-1148 for these great radio specials. So to go back, just to finish talking a little bit about Amy Coney Barrett and the kind of fight she's going to face, I was wondering, it was interesting to me that Senator Cruz said that he does not think that they will hold back because the base won't let them if they don't show up and fight. See, I was thinking, well, maybe they don't want to alienate voters so close to the election. But on the other hand, they alienate their own voters if they don't show up and fight the fight. So it is really, they're kind of caught in a vice as well, which is really it's an interesting, as always, just a fascinating political situation. So we're talking about the way they're attacking her for her Christianity, which is really an attack. It's not just an attack on Christianity. See, it's the attack on the values of Christianity, and it's not just an attack on motherhood or femininity. It's an attack on humanity, because humanity gets in the way. Humanity gets in the way of socialism. It's really an important point. It doesn't get in the way of capitalism. It just doesn't help capitalism. Humanity, it sort of gets in the way of capitalism because you might not buy something or you might not do something to earn more money because of your humanity. As I constantly say, the mistake that capitalists make, the Ayn Rand kind of capitalism harnesses greed for the common good, and that is wonderful, but it doesn't turn greed into a good. See, that's the logical error that kind of Ayn Rand capitalists make. Greed is still a sin, and you can tell it's a sin because when capitalism is unrestrained by values, people do terrible things for profits. They build railroads, which is great for humanity, but they kill a lot of Chinese slaves who are working on the railroads as they do it. And so you need these values first. Always values come first. So the attacks on Amy Coney Barrett and her children and her adoptions and her opposition to Roe v. Wade, although Roe v. Wade is not going to be overturned by her anytime soon. That's not going to happen. But just her opposition to abortion, all of these things are human things that get in the way of socialism specifically, because socialism is selling you the idea that your creature comforts are more important than your freedom. We will give you stuff if you will give us the power to make decisions for us. We will give you free health care. You will get free health care. But if you say want to smoke a cigarette or want to have a third child or want to do something that we don't like, we get to say, no, you can't do that because we're in control of your health care. And if you don't think that happens, it does. And if we want to say, you know what, you're too old for us to waste the common money on you, so you have to die now, they will make that decision as well. And never trust them when they say they won't make that decision, because they will most certainly make it. So this is why you get this kind of hysteria about Christianity, because it gets in the way of all the values, and femininity too, because femininity, again, is not a useful thing. It is a good thing. That's a big difference. It is something higher than useful. It is an actual good. I mean, just take a look at Bill Maher, at what he had to say about Amy Coney Barrett. This is kind of like the natural leftist reaction to what was hilariously called an Orthodox Catholic.
Apparently, the pick is going to be this Amy Coney. We'll all be saying this name a lot, I'm sure, because she's a nut. Religion. I was right about that one, too. Sorry, but Amy Coney Barrett, Catholic, really Catholic. I mean really, really Catholic, like speaking in tongues. Like, she doesn't believe in condoms, which is what she has in common with Trump, because he doesn't either.
So, that is the typical thing. And always, I've said this before, but it's always sex, which is elevated to the level of your individuality, your sexual desires, your sexual practices. These are the things that you have to be free about. You don't need to be free with your opinions. That's like in Citizens United, we can cancel your complaints about a political candidate. But whoa. If we stop you, a guy, from dressing up in a skirt and lipstick, then we have really, really damaged your individuality, because it's not your opinions. It's always your sex, because you're just a material beast. That's all you are. And this really is the issue that we're dealing with. It's really not capitalism versus socialism. It's really not left versus right. It's materialism versus spirituality. It's an idea of a world made by God, of being creatures made by a creator, versus this world of just being pieces of meat with chemistry sets inside. I'll just end this here by saying, the thing that really is interesting to me, is when you look at Amy Coney Barrett. She certainly hasn't been held back by her opinions, whatever they are. She's appointed to she's nominated for the Supreme Court, so that she's obviously doing well in terms of her career. She's got these kids. The kids look happy. I don't know if they needed, I don't know if there's any problem there, but they seem fine. She's also, though, obviously brilliant. She's obviously one of those kind of once-in-a-lifetime brilliant jurists, like Kavanaugh, like Scalia. She obviously has that kind of mind. The way people talk about her is if they are just stunned by her intelligence. So my question is, why don't these journalists and Bill Maher, these guys who are moderately intelligent, why don't they look at more intelligent people like Amy Coney Barrett and Scalia and say, they believe in these things. Maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I'm the person who's wrong. They never do, because they are fully invested in the materialism. And if you take that away from them, you take away everything. Rad power bikes, whether you want a new way to get around town or out in nature, even with the kids in tow, you've got to try one of these rad power bikes. It's a cross between a traditional bike and a moped, but it doesn't require a special driver's license like a moped would. You can go up to 20 miles per hour without pedaling, so you can get out and about without getting sweaty, and they're great for commuting or getting out on the trail or hauling groceries or even transporting your kids on the back. Rad power bikes are affordable. Most e-bikes are in the $3,000 range, but rad power bikes start at just $999, and most of them are under $1,500. Dedicated U.S.-based customer support 7 days a week to answer any questions or concerns makes the perfect gift for someone who loves being active and outdoors. Rad power bikes offer flexible financing for as low as 0% APR. That's pretty low. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free accessory valued at up to $100 with the purchase of a bike. A free gift of up to $100 in value with your purchase, and free shipping to the lower 48 states. To get this special offer, text the word POWER to 64,000. That's POWER to 64,000. Text POWER to 64,000. Also, even when this show is over, I know your heart breaks when the show ends, but even when this show is over, we will be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, when Donald Trump and Joe Biden face off in the first of 3 presidential debates. Well, but they're arguing now whether Biden is allowed to have a thing in his ear. He doesn't want to promise that he won't have anything in his ear. He wants, what did they say? That he wants breaks every 30 minutes. It's 90 minutes. Even I can stand up for 90 minutes. Anybody can stand up for 90 minutes, not Joe Biden. He needs a break every 30 minutes to take some more Adderall. Join us for an all-new episode of Daily Wire Backstage. So watch the debate with us and get our immediate live reaction to this major political event. And even better, you can join Daily Wire now as an insider or all-access member and get 20% off with code DEBATE. So you can watch all the debate coverage live on your Apple TV or Roku app. Watch the debate with us on dailywire.com, YouTube, and Facebook, and get 20% off your Daily Wire membership with code DEBATE when you sign up today. That reminds me, I forgot to promo tomorrow's mailbag. Tomorrow is the mailbag. You want to subscribe so you can ask me questions. Go subscribe at dailywire.com, then hit the podcast button, hit the Andrew Klavan podcast, hit the mailbag symbol, and send in your questions on anything you want, religion, politics, your personal life. All my answers guaranteed 100% correct and will change your life. Will they change your life for the better? How the hell do I know? But if you subscribe, you can find out. And if you want to send a video question, please do. We love to see you as you ask your question, but keep it under a minute because we don't have time to edit it and we can't play it if it's too long. Mailbag is tomorrow. All right, I want to go back. Yesterday, we were talking about this ridiculous New York Times tax story, which the more I read about it, I read the whole story when it came out. This is the story where they got 20 years of Trump's taxes and found out that he paid as little as possible and doesn't seem to have broken any laws. He has one deduction that he made under an Obama regulation that the IRS is questioning and looking at. And so the New York Times made a big deal about this. But really, it's truly a nothing story. It is a genuine damp squib of another one of these bombshells, but it was obviously timed to come out just as the debate was starting. So now Chris Wallace has to ask the question about it. And it's a good question of whether he'll ask about this, but also ask about Hunter Biden and the money he made while he was in the White House. Come on, man, here's the deal, he'll say, and not answer anything. But even so, it's timed. It's obviously done in tandem with the Democrats. They don't have to call up and make a phone call about it. They know how to do it. So it's interesting to watch how it's being covered. The thing is, this is not that the press is biased. I'm not saying that the press is biased against President Trump. No. I would never say that. The problem is, let's historian John Meacham explain the problem. This is cut 3.
I think it's an era and a moment to think a little grandly, because President Trump is the fullest manifestation of the darkest of American forces, right? Some of the darkest of human forces, really. Selfishness and greed and appetite and ambition. And what the tax story shows and endless data shows is that he is a created figure of fantasy. What's the line? He's a poor person's idea of a rich person, but now we know he's not even a rich person particularly.
The guy pays $70 million in 2 years in taxes. $70 million. That's almost more than I get paid for doing this. So, I think we can safely say that Donald Trump is a rich person. But the thing is, the press is not biased. It just happens to be that Trump is a manifestation of all human darkness. See, that's the thing. That's not an opinion. That's not the bias. It's not like they just have gone insane and have Trump derangement syndrome. It is an actual fact that when human darkness manifests itself into human form, it becomes Donald Trump. That's just something that happens. You can see it. I think it was in the movie Human Darkness or something. I can't remember what movie it was. It was a horror film, and human darkness manifested. And there was Trump. It was just a horrifying. So we have it on film. So obviously it's not biased. It's not that they're biased, but it is interesting to note that our friends at the media, at Newsbusters, have a new study out that shows, this is really interesting. 4 years ago, the liberal networks pounded Republican nominee Donald Trump with bad press, yet he won the White House anyway. Now, ABC, CBS, and NBC evening newscasts are giving Trump the same hostile treatment, but they've softened their approach to the Democratic opponent. Not only is Joe Biden facing much less negative coverage than the president, he has received only 1/6 as much negative coverage as former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton received during the early weeks of the 2016 general election. I told you this yesterday that, at major venues, they're basically saying, let's not go after him, even if we shouldn't criticize him at all, because we might affect the election in a way we don't want it to go. And then the manifestation of it's not just Donald Trump. I mean, it's not just a man. It's not just a man going into the White House. It is a manifestation of human. It is the avatar of human darkness. Unbelievable. So when they are confronted with the fact that this New York Times squib is a hit piece coordinated with the Democratic Party to be set up for the debate, I got to show. This is my favorite cut of the day. Basically, this is Poppy Harlow interviewing a Deputy Press Secretary, Brian Morgenstern, about this story. You've got to watch this and watch her reaction.
Where are the taxes on Hunter's $3.5 million from Russia? Where are the taxes on his $1 billion from China? The president's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes.
The president's spokesman about someone who is not germane to this conversation, who is not running for president.
Have you ever asked them? Have you ever done a segment on them?
Brian, please do our viewers the service of answering my questions about the man you work for, because I asked the question.
It's another version of it from 4 years ago on the eve of a debate, coordinated with the Democrats as a political hit.
Okay, Brian, I'm just going to stop you there. These are remarkable reporters from the New York Times who went through 20 years of documents. It is not okay for you to accuse them with no facts of coordinating with the Democratic Party.
Poppy,
please stop doing that, or this interview will end.
Do not confront me with my corruption. That's the left. That's the left all over. We want to be corrupt, but you're not allowed to say we're corrupt. This is in the Bible, actually. If your ears offend you, cut off the guy's mic. It's not like, if I'm offended by the face in the mirror, break the mirror. That's what they do. But it's fair, because Donald Trump is not just Donald Trump. He is the manifestation of human darkness. So it's, this is the way it's got to be. It is unbelievable. You remember, you may not remember this anymore because everything goes so fast in the era of Trump, and there's so much news that it's hard to remember one day from the next. But you may remember there was this Russian collusion, 3 years of coverage of Russian collusion. It went on and on and on. And now it has blown up completely in their faces. And they're yelling at Bill Barr, the Attorney General. They're yelling at him. They say he's bringing shame on the Justice Department by exposing the fact that the Justice Department, in the person of the FBI, basically, they used information from a suspected Russian spy to go after Trump, to wiretap him. Everything Trump said, every single thing Trump said about the Russian investigation was true. It was a hoax. They bugged his people. They were spying on him. It was corruption going right up to the top. Obama almost definitely knew about it. Everything Trump said is true. And now that it's blown up, I just want to show you Brian Stelter. This is another thing from MRC. They put together this little montage of Brian Stelter. He can't understand why everybody's so upset about it, and then they go back in time.
So disappointing to look at what we're seeing from right-wing media these days, where there's such an obsession with the deep state and these revelations about the Russia probe. Latest on the Robert Mueller Russia investigation. Mueller investigation, the Russia investigation, Trump's Russia ties, and Robert Mueller. The real Russia story, Russia probe, the ongoing Russia probe, the Russia investigation. But Mueller and the Russia probe, Russia synergies, they wonder if Russia has compromising information on the president. What is the source for the president's claim that they have found no collusion with Russia? He misspelled collusion. Every day we're trying to keep track of the drip, drip, drip of the Russia investigation. Drip, 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 Trump and Russia. To see whether Trump was secretly working for Russia. To bring it back to Russia and Russia and Russia. Russia. Russia's in Russia. Russia and Russia. Robert Mueller. Special counsel Robert Mueller. Mueller investigation. Mueller report. Russia conspiracy.
So now they get this bogus tax story from the New York Times. There's nothing tax story. Who do they bring on to discuss it? Andrew Weissman, a Mueller investigator. This is cut 8.
The president's tax returns have been revealed by the New York Times, several years of them. And a layperson like me looks at them and sees one thing. You are a prosecutor. You are somebody who investigated the president and some of these issues for many, many years. What jumps out to you?
What jumps out to me, Savannah, is a 2014 statement from Eric Trump, where Eric Trump said that the Trump organization does not rely on American banks because they have plenty of funding from Russia.
Aha! We've got them finally. He's got funding from Russia. If you're not going to believe a guy who did a hit job on Donald Trump with the Mueller investigation, at least you've got to believe Jeff Daniels. This is cut 14.
What are they talking about in Helsinki? What were, all the stuff? I mean, there's all of that. The tax returns that he won't show us. It's so obvious. And where is he getting the money? Where did he get all the money? And I mean, all roads, as Speaker Pelosi said, all roads lead to Putin. And, time's running out. This is a bad movie we're living through. That's what this is. If it weren't so life and death, it's a bad movie.
Speaking of a bad movie, you can't believe an actor. If you can't believe an actor, who can you believe? Speaking of a bad movie, Jeff Daniels is now playing James Comey in a movie of James Comey's book, and they're not even acknowledging all the stuff that's come out about Comey. He said in one interview, Jeff Daniels said, the truth is like a religion to James Comey. Oh, my God. Well, it's okay, though. They're allowed to do this because Trump is a manifestation of human darkness. I thought I was the manifestation of human darkness. I thought that was my entire role. I got to stop here. I'm out of time. But we will be back tonight watching the debate, and I hope you'll all join us. And I hope you will be in the mailbag tomorrow so all your problems can be solved. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is the manifestation of human darkness known as The Andrew Klavan Show. The Andrew Klavan Show is produced by Robert Sterling. Executive producer, Jeremy Boring. Our technical director is Austin Stevens. Supervising producer, Mathis Glover. Assistant director, Pavel Wadowski. Edited by Adam Sayevitz and Danny D'Amico. Audio mixed by Robin Fenderson. Hair and makeup, or head and makeup, is by Nika Geneva. Animations are by Cynthia Angulo. Production assistants, McKenna Waters and Ryan Love. The Andrew Klavan Show is a Daily Wire production. Copyright Daily Wire 2020.
The Matt Walsh Show, it's not just another show about politics. I think there are enough of those already out there. We talk about culture because culture drives politics and it drives everything else. So my main focuses are life, family, faith. Those are fundamental, and that's what this show is about. I hope you'll give it a listen.